Visualizing is one of the most difficult things in chess, like seeing the whole board when you're calculating the variations. Let me help you with that. You're not gonna look at chess with the same eyes after today's video, so let's get started. Hi guys, and welcome to Journey to Grandmaster, the place where you can improve every aspect of your chess game. And today we are improving your visualization skills. So I want to show you this game and I want to walk you through it. It was a tremendous game from my chess tournament recently that I have played, and the calculations were amazing there. I want to explain you how you go through it, how you decide what's important in a certain position, and how do you calculate the variations properly. So let's get started. The game started with the King's Indian defense. I have played as white. This b3 line, I really like it. Bishop to b2, and that's the main line, theoretical line. Here my opponent played the move e5. The main line is to take on c4 immediately, but what happened here is e5, e4, and then takes. So this is the same position, but what has changed, this pawn is no longer on e7, it's on e4, and my opponent uses this fact immediately and plays the move e3, trying to disrupt my entire position here, trying to say, well, I'm gonna take it, your pawn is going to be isolated. If you take, then the pawn will be horribly weak. But, well, fortunately for me, I knew this line, I knew what to do, so I immediately took this pawn. And yeah, I know it might feel horrible here, but if you know that's the right thing to do, then you are more or less fine with it. So knight g4, the point is that somehow white gets some initiative here, some activity, and that compensates those weak pawns. So queen to c1, that's the move that controls both the bishop and the pawn, defends everything, and now bishop h6 has been played. Attacking it twice, and now I want you to pause the video for a second and try to find the best move for white, because it's incredible here. Okay, I hope you have managed to do that, because I haven't during the game. I mean, this pattern is so amazing, I haven't even thought about it. Queen to c3, I mean, I have calculated this line, but somehow it didn't work for me. Now bishop takes c3, no choice here, king to h1, knight to f2 check. Now, of course, if you go back, you're losing. Rook takes f2, bishop takes f2, and now bishop to d5, just closing this file for the queen. Of course, I'm threatening a lot of discover attacks, and then it's going to be a checkmate, so queen to f6 is more or less forced. But now an amazing move comes, knight to c6. I mean, that's not the only move, but that's the most amazing one. So the queen is hanging. You should take it here, because otherwise you're going to get checkmated. And now knight goes to e7. King g7, now bishop takes with a check once again, f6. Now we are taking the bishop there, and in the end of the day, we are taking on b7 and forking both of the rooks. The knight should go somewhere, and then, yeah, eventually we are taking it. We can develop the piece first. Bishop goes somewhere. Knight b5, rook a to b8, and we are taken here. And in the end of the day, as a result of this whole thing, we have won a pawn, and hopefully that would bring us the victory. So now back to the initial question of the video. How do you find those things? How do you even try to understand that those things are possible? Well, you must always start with the most active opportunities, both for you and for your opponent when you are calculating the variations. So here, I mean, the pawn is hanging. The passive thing to deal with it would be just to defend it, and that is what I did. But first, I'm starting to calculate the active opportunities. And of course, queen to c3 is the most active opportunity here, because, well, the system is checks, captures, threats, active moves. I don't really have any checks here. I don't have any captures. I mean, bishop b7 or rook f7, but that's just blunders to the piece, so it doesn't count. Then the threats. And queen c3 is a threat, because I'm threatening to play knight e6 with attacking the queen, and queen h8 double attack. That would be a checkmate. So now I have to do the same thing for my opponent. So checks, captures, and threats. Well, the only check is there is bishop takes e3, so I'm calculating that. Of course, I'm doing it in my mind, because during a chess game, I'm not allowed to move the pieces, unfortunately. In h1, the only move, it's very simple to calculate when you have the only moves, and it's simple. Now, of course, you're calculating the checks. Knight f2 is a check, so you're starting with it. You can briefly take a look at bishop takes d4, because that's going to be an exchange, and the position is clear afterwards. I was happy with it, because I'm going to have two bishops in a very open position. Of course, I have some weaknesses, but yeah, also some targets to attack. So then you proceed with the most active option, which is knight takes f2, check. takes, and now, well, here it was difficult for me to come up with a move because I don't have any immediate active move. Like I was calculating 96, 96, 95, but I can't do that because of queen d1, and I'm gonna be checkmated. So I need to really find this calm move like bishop to d5 or maybe even e3, another incredible move. Here, just protecting the knight and blocking the bishop, so making sure that the knight can't be exchanged, because at this point I'm an exchange down, so bishop takes d4 or queen takes d4 is a very serious threat. So I'm playing here e3, and such moves are very, very difficult to spot. Bishop d5 is more straightforward, very active move, adding a bishop here, so f6 is never possible to block the diagonal. And then queen f6, I have also calculated this variation, but somehow I stopped here. I saw that, well, my knight is now pinned and I don't really have any active way to continue. I thought like e3, but yeah, somehow didn't felt like it's enough. But well, maybe it's fine. I can just slowly continue being an exchange down. But I mean, all of my pieces are active, so I'm using this fact. But knight c6 is a straightforward variation because it's like takes, checks, and then you have your answer whether it's good or not. So I was able to do that. Unfortunately, I haven't found knight to c6. The queen is hanging, no checks, once again, queen takes, but knight e7 is a check, king g7, bishop takes c3 is a check, then f6, no checks possible, but that's a capture, so checks, captures, and threats, that should help you to find the right variation. Now, going back to the game, instead, I played knight c2. Once I made sure that for me, the active options don't work, only then I'm coming to the passive option, but only in this direction. Once you are sure that no active opportunities are possible, only then you're coming to some passive opportunities like knight c2 back, defending here the pawn. Knight c6 has been played in this position, knight c3. I just want to place it on d5, where the knight would be just a monster, defending everything and also attacking, creating some huge threats for my opponent. And here is a moment when a brilliant move came from my opponent. Yeah, I didn't see it when I played knight c3, but I was seeing it during my opponent's thought process, and that was just completely shocking for me. Amazing here. So knight to d4 is a move. It's possible to take it with a pawn, with a knight, but both of the moves are completely losing. First of all, the pawn is pinned, but if I take with a knight, then the same problem, bishop takes c3 with a double attack, and I'm losing my queen. So the knight is pretty much untouchable. But once I have started to think about it, I have realized that it's actually not a big deal. I just step back here with a king, knight takes, queen takes, knight takes, e3 with a fork, but all of a sudden I have this amazing pattern here. I play queen to c1, and now it's not this bishop who is pinning me, but I'm pinning this knight, and if you take the rook, then I'm gonna take the bishop, and the bishop on b2 is incredibly strong here, and I'm just giving a checkmate. So my opponent just played here knight to g4, attacking my queen, and the queen doesn't really have a lot of good options. Well, I obviously can go back because I don't want to make a draw, I want to win the game, and I don't want to go to e1 because of bishop to d2. At least I thought that's going to be a problem. If I go to d1, then knight is 3, and I mean, that's not that pleasant. At least that is what my feeling was. So I played here queen to b1, and I thought, well, the queen is not that active for a moment, because, well, my ideal square is, of course, c3 to give a checkmate. But I thought, well, once I put my knight on d5, everything should be great for me. So my opponent played bishop e6, and that's what I did, knight to d5. And now it's not that simple for black to take this knight, because then I'm taking it back, and after knight to e3, I once again have the same amazing pattern, knight, queen to c1, and now you can't really take anything with your knight, because queen takes h6, and that's gonna be just an immediate checkmate. And otherwise, my queen is coming to c3, and the bishops are just tremendously strong. So my opponent played here f5, and I immediately felt that, well, now the position should be winning. Queen to c2, maybe not the best way to use it, because, well, my idea was to play queen to c3, obviously, and after bishop g7, which happened, I'm just taking it, king takes, and then I have queen to b2 check, and I'm winning the pawn. But what I have missed, and once again, when you are calculating the variations, you should pay attention to that. Because after bishop takes g7, my opponent is actually not obliged to take the bishop. It's not checkers, remember? So he can take on d5 instead. And now if I take the rook, then he can take on g2 with a check. And if I take back, then king takes back. And somehow, well, I can still win the pawn, obviously. Queen b2 and queen b7. But the king goes away, and suddenly there are so many weak squares here for me, and the knight is active, ready to jump somewhere, the queen is ready to connect, and yeah, I didn't feel anymore that this position is so clear. So the lesson to learn here is that never take back just automatically. Try to stop for a second and think maybe you have some other option in between, and maybe that change the whole situation. So my opponent took it here back, and then I have continued my idea, queen to b2, king back, and queen takes b7, and this position is very unpleasant because all of my pieces are very active, rook to b8, and now I have just taken another pawn, because not only that, pawn is always great, but it helps my queen to go back into the center. Your queen is normally very good in the center if it's not the opening, but rather in the middle game when you're attacking a lot of stuff here. Rook to f7, queen to d4, and knight to f6. My opponent, well, was in time travel, and here I thought, well, I can just exchange everything. I have calculated the variations once again. So start with the most active moves, which is knight x f6. That is a check and a capture at the same time. So takes, 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 takes. And now we have this endgame when I have two extra pawns, and also I'm protecting it with my rooks. I'm standing behind. That is a general principle, to have your rook behind the pawn to support it. So rook to c8 to c5, I'm pushing everything forward, and then a5, bishop takes, and I decided here that I can just sacrifice one of my pawns. I played a6, takes, and now c6 to make sure that my rook is incredibly active. That is always the best position if you have some time, because otherwise the king will come and take. But meanwhile, my king will just eat all of the black pawns. That is why my opponent resigned here. So king d6 or king d7, then takes, and meanwhile I'm taking all of the pawns there and easily win the game. So I hope this video was helpful for you to improve your calculation skills, and in this one I'm revealing you the secret in terms of what makes a difference between losing the game and winning it, and help you to improve your overall chess understanding.